Right. 5:30 having arrived, I would call the meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Our first order of business on the agenda is a visit from Denise Gregg from the Emergency Management. That throws me, I'm assuming, planning grants?
Emergency Management Performance Grant.
Performance grant, sorry.
This is a grant in the amount, the total cost is $8,000. It would be a $4,000 in-kind grant for the town, and it's to update the emergency operations plan. This is done typically every 5 years. It is a critical step in ensuring that the town be able to qualify for the receipt of funds from FEMA. It's one of FEMA's mandated steps. We last performed ours in 2014. So we have, in the last month or so, sent out 3 bids for proposals from different planners to update the town plan. Hubbard Consulting, June Garneau at Mapping Solutions, as well as Southern New Hampshire Planning. We received the 3 bids. The Emergency Management Committee met, reviewed the bids, and recommended in a unanimous vote to select Hubbard Consulting LLC as a planner to assist us.
And you need a motion to move forward with the Hubbard Consulting selection. And
the filing of the grant, correct.
Yeah. And what Denny is looking for is a motion to approve the selection of Hubbard Consulting LLC to assist with the update of the emergency operations plan of the town of Deerfield through the filing of an emergency management performance grant in the total cost of $8,000, of which the town will bear 50% of the cost through an in-kind match.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Discussion or questions for Denny regarding the grant? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Appears to be unanimous, Denny.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Denny.
Okay, Dan Holdridge is not with us yet this evening. I expect him at a later time. I gave him a rough idea of how long the meeting would go. He's at a basketball game at the community school that started at 5 o'clock, but assured me that he would be here to discuss some moderator things. I don't see Barbara Matthews either, but
I'm filling in for her.
Wonderful. If I could get you to move to the microphone.
Frank Mitchell, Meeting House Hill Road, and I believe Barbara submitted a brief request through the online form for the agenda, and I'm not sure if you've all seen that or not.
Yes, I have it here, and I'll read it for the record as well, if you don't mind. It shouldn't take too long. The Country Co-op is a group of local residents who order food in bulk once a month from United Natural Foods, Inc., based in Chesterfield, New Hampshire. The order arrives by truck. There are usually 5 or 6 households ordering. The co-op group for years paid the town of Deerfield $15 a month to use the town hall kitchen as a sheltered sorting area for the food being delivered, and we would like to renew this arrangement with the town. We need only the kitchen or entry area to sort and divide our order, and would not need heat. We always leave the area clean as we found it. We appreciate your consideration and hope to attend your meeting on January 21st, which is actually the 22nd, to present this request and provide any other information you might want. I'm familiar with this agreement, and it's gone on for years and years and years with no difficulty that I'm aware of, but I don't know if the board has concerns or questions, or?
Could it be here? Or is it easier over there with the staff?
We asked ourselves that question, and we wondered, it's a tractor-trailer truck that delivers it, so it might be easier at the town hall.
Okay.
I think you're probably right, particularly depending on what time the tractor trailer shows up.
Yeah, it's been early morning for the most part, and generally there's no one there. I might add, too, the co-op is open to anyone who wants to join, and The interior of the building is something we really would only use in bad weather, rain, snow, extreme wind, and cold. Otherwise, you just divide the stuff up outdoors.
I've actually seen folks dividing the stuff outdoors on the steps, so. Fred?
And you only use the kitchen? and that's
Right.
pretty much it? And we haven't had any problems with regard to the cleanup after they're finished there?
They haven't been using it
Oh.
since I've been here.
Yeah, that's a
It's
good
been
point.
some time.
Yeah, it's been a matter of years because we had a private residence, the Menard property, we had used for a while, and using the barn where the truck could come in and turn around.
Mhm.
But that's no longer an option. So we've been looking for another suitable location. and-
My recollection is you used the town hall previously for
Yes, we did.
probably a decade, or
Probably at least that.
at least that, yeah,
Yeah,
without
this group
incident,
has been
so.
going for many decades, but not at the town hall.
It's on a weekend?
No, it's usually during the week.
In the week.
It has been, it's now Wednesdays. It had been Fridays.
Is there any concern about allowing the co-op to use the kitchen area or the steps of the town hall on a weekly basis for $15?
I just have a concern about, do it for one, you have to do it for the other. And I think we talked about consistency before, but I know they're not using the whole building.
Sounds like they're only using the building if it's bad weather, right?
Yes, that's true. And for a short period of time, it takes us maybe 20 minutes to sort things out and go on our way. So yes, it's not an event where we're using the entire building by any means.
I don't know, I think, to my mind, $15 is a healthy return for the amount of use there.
Or to use in the amount of time they're using it, yeah.
Well, I might add, it's monthly that we do this.
I think we could do it with general agreements, or if you would prefer, someone could make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the use of the building for 15 a week or 15 a month?
15 a month.
15 a
for
month.
1 month of use.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion.
I have a question. Would that apply only when we use the building? In other words, if we don't need to come and get a key that day? In other words, do we pay only when we use the interior of the building?
Yeah, I can't see charging you $15 a month to meet in the parking area.
Parking lot, yeah.
Exchange boxes.
Parking meter.
We could probably coordinate if we know there's going to be bad weather.
Right.
Someone from the co-op would have to come by, pick up a key for the following morning, and then return it. And if you use the key, you return it with a check, and
Sounds good.
it can be that simple.
Okay, probably would be me. I'd be happy to do that.
I'll amend my motion.
In accordance with the comments made. Okay, if there's no further discussion, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
We've got 3 in favor and 1 opposed.
Okay,
We're good. I think that takes care of it.
thank you.
Okay. Regular business, we have review of the outstanding minutes from January 6th, 2020.
A motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Comments, corrections, concerns? Hearing none, those in favor of accepting the minutes as presented?
Aye.
Appears to be unanimous. I have an accounts payable manifest in the amount of $33,921.83.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I've got 3 requests for veterans' property tax credit exemptions. The first is there are 2 forms. It's from Greg and Jessica Harlow of 27 Mountain Road. Both are asking for the standard veterans' tax credit. And everything looks to be in order. Town clerk has provided their discharge information. And I would entertain a motion to grant Greg and Jessica Harlow the veterans credits that they're eligible for.
Question, is that common for 2 on one piece of property?
I don't know that it's that common, but I suspect
Is it-
it's not that
It's above
common.
board?
Yeah, it is above board as far as I'm aware. I think it's not
Each.
that common because it's unusual to have.
No, I don't want to deny it if it's, as long as it's,
As long as they both qualify.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
And I have a third application for the veterans tax credit from Sam White, Hartford Brook Road, applying for the all veterans standard tax credit. Everything appears to be in order.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Did you sign then, right? Is that what that says? Print then?
Yeah.
Okay.
The next one, it's all printed for us. This point. All the way back. Ah. Lastly, I have a request from the town clerk tax collector for release of a tax lien. This is a lien that was paid off on April 26, 1986, and should have been released at the registry at that time. It's for Warren Billings Jr., who hasn't been in town for a good long time. And we need a motion to release the tax lien so they can correct the filing at the registry.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
That takes care of the signatures.
Andy, you said you had 3 veterans tax credits, and I got 2, but I didn't get a third.
The first 2 were a husband and wife team, Greg and Jessica Harlow, so I read them both at the same time.
Does it hurt my feelings?
Wait till those last couple of things are signed, and then I'm going to go to Dan Holdridge, the town moderator, who's with us. Is that a B on that hat, Dan, or?
A D for Deerfield.
Oh,
Kind of a cool hat to wear. They use the Dodgers.
afraid that was
Hats.
a Detroit hat, but.
That's what I thought too.
It's either that or a B for Boston, but no, D for Deerfield now.
All right, I think we're good to go. Dan, if you want to address us about upcoming events and.
Sure. Good evening. Dan Holdridge, Town Moderator, 107 South Road. We have our upcoming deliberation session, as we all know, on February 1st. As the moderator, I'd like to just go through the warrant articles and discuss just briefly each one to the extent that who we're going to have speak on behalf of them, and also some concerns that I had that I just want to make sure everybody's aware of. The first one obviously is the zoning amendment. That's an article that can't be amended during a session of deliberative session, so that's just an informational only for the zoning amendment, number one. I know our town administrator has put up on the website the full details of that zoning amendment, so if anyone is interested in that, that's in full detail today. Up there, I saw that. Nice work, John. Article 1 will be the budget, per se. So, Andy, would that be you to take the lead on that?
Yeah, I would take the lead and typically
then
defer to the
defer to
budget
the
committee
MBC?
chairman,
Mhm.
because it's actually their number that's being moved.
Okay, thank you. The second one is the appropriating the sum of $200,000 for the purpose and repair of the reconstruction of existing roads. Would that be you and then the town agent or road agent? Or?
It would, yeah, one of the Board of Selectmen would move pretty much all of these, and if there's,
Okay.
if it's clearly related to a particular town officer, we generally defer for the discussion.
Perfect, okay. Next one would be the Winter Road Expendable Trust, adding to that, so that same deal with that, correct?
Yep.
Yep,
Just
okay.
replenishing what we used last year.
Article 4 is the command vehicle for the fire department. I've reached out to Chief Fisher and asked him to be present for that, to discuss that. Did you folks want to start, and then I turn it over to him?
Yeah, I can certainly start and,
Okay.
and give some inkling of board discussion about it. I'm not sure, he may well want to amend that from
Sure.
the floor at the
Yeah,
session as well.
yeah, I would assume, okay, very good. Okay, so we'll give him that opportunity first there.
Dan,
Yes,
I got a question for you, Dan.
I never voted on this for this 5-0 recommended by the selectmen.
I think it's backwards.
it's not, it says not recommended.
Yeah, we didn't take a vote on it.
Are we going to?
Well, typically we would, but
That's what I wondered. I didn't-
So it's up to you. I mean, John, I think tonight's the last night we can make changes to this, correct?
It would be preferable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all good with it if it says not having.
okay, does someone want to quickly make a motion as to whether to recommend warrant Article 4 or not, and second it so we can take a vote on it?
I'll make that motion.
Got a motion, is there a second?
Yes.
Okay, we've got a second. Just to clean this up, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $63,800 for the 2020-2021 Chevrolet Tahoe Fire Department Command Vehicle. The price includes a 75,000 mile, 7-year warranty. The intent is to use the current command vehicle for a trade-in. Further discussion among the Board of Selectmen? Those in favor of recommending warrant Article 4?
Aye.
Okay, we've got 2. Those opposed?
No.
2. I will vote to make or break a tie. I would vote to break the tie and recommend warrant Article 4. So that would be a 3-2.
0. Okay. Very good. Shall I continue?
Yes.
Okay. Article 5 will be the librarian, the appropriating the sums for the salary and benefits for a full-time children's librarian. Would you
We would
folks-
certainly move that and then look to someone from the Board of Library Trustees more than likely to speak to it.
Somebody will be there? Okay,
I assume Jane Miller will be.
okay. Okay, Article 6 would be the establishing the police department expendable trust fund for the engineering and architectural plans. That, would you folks speak to that? Would the chief?
Yes.
Would Chief,
He will
Yes.
certainly be there if there are questions. but
Okay.
We would move the article.
okay. 7's the town's appropriating the sum of 50,000 for fire apparatus. I've let Chief Fisher know about that one as well, so we'll do the same. The town's, obviously, number 8 is for the additional wages and benefits for cost of living, so that would be you folks. Number 9, Chief is going to speak on that one, Fire Emergency Water Expendable Trust Fund. Now, John, we should be able to have the fund balances for those all? Yep, okay, great. Article 10, did that get discussed yet?
We've discussed it. We have not taken a formal vote on it, at my recollection. And again, I guess I would do that at this point, get this on the record. Warrant Article 10 is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $30,000 for the purpose of updating and amending the town of Deerfield's master plan in accordance with RSA 674-1 through 4 and 675-6. Get a motion on that.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We did discuss this and had a general idea that it was going to be $30,000 was the estimated cost. I believe pending the public budget hearing, I was informed that the master plan should be updated every 5 years. We are currently 11 years out, is my recollection.
10.
Yep, 10. And there are a number of reasons why we need to have an updated master plan, not the least of which is our ability to apply for grants, loans, that sort of thing. That's very frequently the first, or at the forefront of the boxes you need to check to proceed. It was also brought up at the public hearing that if the town gets involved in litigation regarding land use, that sort of thing, one of the first questions a judge is likely to ask you is, do you have an updated master plan?
Correct.
So that is the rationale behind updating it and the expenditure.
So what's the $30,000 for?
To,
Upgrading it, updating it.
I'll defer to Fred from the planning board to explain the specifics of that, but
Yeah, I've got a fairly lengthy list of activities that are associated with that, and that comes from the updating the master plan that was done for the town of Wyndham. And it involves having a vision plan and working with the citizens on committees, and looking at land use plan, community facilities, population and housing, transportation, economic development, natural resources, recreation and open space, demographics and socioeconomics, regional perspective, future land use, and energy. Those are all the sections of the master plan that would be looked at and would be updated.
I know the school is very interested in us having an updated master plan as well for their purposes, much the same as I've already described, but
So what is the $30,000 for?
basically consultants, my understanding, that orchestrate this and put it together and recreate the master plan.
We'd be looking probably to get our proposals. Most likely would be Southern New Hampshire Planning, but we'd be looking to get proposals on it too.
So you would get other than them?
Yeah.
It would go out to bid.
It's got to be a voted yes by the town people first.
Right.
To expend the money.
Okay. Thanks for the update, Fred.
Further discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor of recommending that we update the master plan at a cost of $30,000 or an estimated cost of $30,000?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, so we would be recommending that on a unanimous basis, Tim.
And then at that, when we do introduce that, if, Fred, if you're able to speak on that behalf
Yeah.
of what the plan is, and I'm sure there's a lot of residents that may not know and the importance of that. Article 11, appropriating the sum for the municipal government buildings infrastructure expendable fund, so that's you folks. Article 12 is the fire department. It's Chief Fisher. Article 13, that was to see if the town's going to vote and raise and appropriate the sum of $15,100, with half coming from the Parks and Rec revolving fund and remaining come from taxes. Is there any thoughts on that?
Yeah, we would probably have Jeff move that it be placed on the warrant, and he's a Parks and Rec Commission member, so he could speak to that too.
So, I'm sorry, Jeff?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, thanks.
yeah, unless it helps. Nick's there too, we can.
Nick could certainly answer questions, but Nick isn't a resident and couldn't move that it be placed on the warrant, so.
Okay, so, all right, was there any, John, was there any verbiage on that, or no more changes on that, the semicolon or anything like that? We're keeping it as is?
There were some comments made at the NBC meeting that somebody might like to see additional punctuation or clarification that can certainly come from the floor
Okay.
at the meeting.
Okay, very good. Article 14 is raising appropriating $10,000 for the rescue vehicles, so that's the fire department. Article 15 is the $8,000 for the milfoil, so I'll turn that to Andy, and then Andy, is there somebody that will speak on that behalf, or is that you?
Yeah, I can speak directly to that, and I'll
Okay.
have the real estate value figures and the tax income that we get from those properties.
Perfect. Okay, Article 16 is the sum of $2,500 for the Pleasant Lake Preservation Association, same.
We'd probably have Richard speak to that if he wants to, and there's likely to be some folks from the Pleasant Lake Association there too.
Okay. All right, so Richard will call upon you on that first, okay.
Unless you don't want
No, that's
to slap me,
Okay, Article 17, almost there. To see if the town's going to adopt the provisions of RSA 7235 allowing maximum veterans tax credit. So 17 and 18 both are the tax credits for veterans.
Right, and one of us can certainly explain that, and if the folks that brought the notice to us, if Rob Wolfgram, for example, is in the audience, we could recognize him too to speak to it.
Sure. Perfect, okay. Okay, so then 19 was a petitioned warrant article, and that was to see if the town's going to urge the New Hampshire General Court to carry out the 2020 redistricting plan. So we have the contact information for that person who.
Yeah, I would suspect that Maureen Mann or Dana Vanderby, if they're present, I know were
Okay.
signatories on that.
I'll reach out to them to see, make sure that they'll be there to be able to speak on that behalf and answer questions if there's any. Article 20 is changing the fee on the use of the town hall by the Board of Selectmen from $0 to $75, and they're suggesting it should be more than $25. So this is an unenforceable one, it's an advisory.
Yeah. I don't recall any of the names of the signatories, so.
I think you had them, yep, so we're all set on that one. Okay, 21 is per RSA's 289.6, and 130 is shall the town of Deerfield delegate duties, responsibilities for maintenance of the town cemetery, so that's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, I believe Maureen Mann would be probably the best person to speak to that.
Okay. Very good. Last but not least, number 22. This one here would be an advisory also and a non-binding one. We've already run this by town council, and there's nothing in here that is legally able to do.
Yeah, and I would suspect if they're in the audience, probably John Garland or Matthew Burke are signatories who might speak to that.
Okay. Yeah, so there was just nothing in here that is legal to actually do, so, okay. Okay, so other than that, was there any questions on the warrant articles, or is there anything that you folks would like?
Ready to go.
Okay. We're going to be doing, we're going to be adding a little bit more technology this year. We're going to be doing a PowerPoint or a screen to put up the warrant articles. Last year, we had the transparency. We're going to go next step up. We're going to use a laptop so that when people make amendment suggestions, they can be brought up, and then our deputy town clerk will go ahead and put them up on the screen so everyone can read them as they typed. Just the handwriting thing took a little too long, so we're going to have them typed up as they go so everyone can follow along. And then if there's any amendments, they can see amendments as they go, so it's easier to follow through. So we're going to add that this year, and hopefully we're trying to make it go a little bit smoother and have everyone be able to follow along with greater ease. So that's kind of the goal. But if anyone has any suggestions that they'd like to see incorporated, we're always happy to help and make it even more productive.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate you showing up, Dan.
Sure, thank you.
Okay. Gonna move to review of correspondence. I would note for the record that a payroll manifest in the amount of $55,537.04 was signed by a quorum of the Board of Selectmen, all on the 13th of January. And that's really all we've got in there for the moment. And I would look to Mr. Harrington for the Town Administrator's report.
I have one item tonight, just to get back to the board on a question asked concerning the warrant articles with the veterans credits. If those were to pass by a majority of the citizens, anyone who is currently receiving the vet credit would automatically be increased to the new limit. They don't have to take any action.
Good, thanks, John. Yep. Okay, moving along, unfinished business. We're going to take up the Cinnamon LUCT appeal request, and at our last meeting, there was some discussion about information provided in the summary that Avatar gave us as our assessor, and I know some members thought that it would be helpful if Evan Roberge was here to answer questions of the board.
Yep.
I don't know what the board's pleasure is. I have Mr. Sinman in the back, has his hand up looking to speak. Does the board want to hear comments at this point, or do we want to move forward speaking with Mr. Roberge?
Let's say Mr. Roberge first, and then
Okay, and then we'll certainly recognize Mr. Sinman. Thanks, Evan. And I know, I think the primary question that the board had that, and stop me if I'm wrong, my recollection is regarding the valuation, how the property value was assigned at. There wasn't much question about the explanation of recreational use, that sort of thing, but there was some question about how the value was arrived at.
So the value is 10% of the full and true value at the time it was discovered. So I think he was comparing it to like surrounding assessments. Assessments are very low right now. As you know, they're at like about 80% of the market value, and this year we're doing the update. So assessments aren't at 100% of market value. So we look at all the recent sales in town during that time that we discovered this, and look at those sales and make adjustments for differences. Obviously, he's got long access, stuff like that.
I think the question in particular was how the proportional value of $66,000 was arrived at.
So that's using, so if you look at my land use change tax, so you're looking at all these sales. So all the sales on there, I got 8 sales listed. So I think it ranges from as low as 69 to as high as 130. So you pretty much, you look at all those, make adjustments for differences. Some have paved driveways, some have dirt, some have paved roads, some have dirt, some are different topography. Some have longer access, some have power line easements going across them. And then you just have to make adjustments for differences to come to a value.
Yeah, Fred?
My notes I have here is that you had calculated that they were using 1.3 acres,
Yeah,
and my question was, how was 66,000 related to 1.3 acres?
that's looking at all the sales. So we look at all the sales, so 3 acres sold for 86,000. We have 3 acres that sold for 120,000. So you look at that, and that would be an adjustment. So we'd have to take off essentially 1.7 acres from one of the, if we're using that 3 acre sale, 1.3 or 1.7 acres. So it's all adjustments, because you're never going to find exactly the
Right.
same. Just like you're not going to find exactly the same house, you're not going to find exactly the same piece of property.
Wasn't there a question about the dirt road? That's what threw me for a loop.
Well, there's two, so talking about the land use change tax is one thing, talking about the value is one thing, and then talking about whether it should come out of current use is another thing, really. Do you guys have, what questions do you have on that? So I think,
I don't
good to
think that-
hear him on the,
I think the primary question that came up at the last meeting was that, relative to what Fred had asked you, how the $66,000 figure was arrived at.
yeah, and that's just using all the recent sales I had at the time. And then you're making adjustments for, it's a dirt driveway, so, you take off, if these are all paved sales and we take off 5%, that's an adjustment for that. If there's some of these, if he's got a long access, depending on how long it is, then we take off an adjustment for there, 5, 10%, however long it is. We have to figure that out.
Okay.
So yeah, there's adjustments for everything, because we're trying to get the market value of that 1.3 acres. So if you're looking at a 3 acre sale, that's 120,000, but it's paved and it's level and there's not an access issue, you have to make adjustments, negative adjustments.
Fred?
So the current going price for 3 acres is 120,000 roughly?
It ranges. It depends on the neighborhood. It depends on the road. But yeah, so far, and this is back when I did it in August, but yeah, it ranged from 69 all the way to 130. Most of them, I'd say, just looking at this quickly, I think the average in Deerfield is around 80 to 90.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Evan. I don't know, we don't have Mr. Cinnamon on the agenda as an appointment, but he's here, and
Yeah, that's-
if he wants to make some comments, is the board agreeable to
Yeah, let's get it
listen
done.
to?
Yep.
Like, if you could
Nope,
switch seats.
that's fine.
John, nice to meet you. Well, one of the things that changed, I guess, after our last meeting, we had a chance to actually get the documents that they submitted. We didn't have those documents and weren't aware of why the land was being taken out of current use. And I think we'd just like to address the 3 key areas just real quick on those particular axes, because they're pretty, one of the big things that she'll speak to is that this is considered by Avatar as a residential structure. And that's what started this whole thing in the evaluation. That's why I was hoping we could speak so that they could answer to that. But it was been already classified as the building department, as an outbuilding. We got approval for that prior to purchasing this structure. And we went to the town, we showed them the brochures of the document, the whole 9 yards. The town classified this as an outbuilding. And now Avatar comes by and says, no, that's not an outbuilding, that's a residential structure. And one is, I don't know that they have the authority to overrule the town building inspector, what he classified it as, because it's really pivotal to the case here. The town says this is an outbuilding. Avatar says, no, we're not going to listen to what the town says. This is a residential structure. That's a real problem in my mind, because if this is indeed an outbuilding, as we were promised before we actually purchased the structure, all this goes away according to their own arguments. We haven't changed any uses of the land or the road. In addition, just a quick summary, the things that are written in the document are just completely not true. And I can point to the specifics in here. There's a claim in here that we made changes to the road. That is completely not true. I have exact proof of pictures right here that I can show you. There was claims that we made improvements to the log landing to accommodate this cabin. Completely not true. I have pictures showing when the loggers started, when the loggers finished, and how the loggers finished, and what it looks like today, and they're identical. And they claim that we saw a bulldozer on the property, and this is probably what they used to edit the property with. Just not true. I have pictures to prove it's not true. So we didn't have this information going into the last meeting to able to explain it. But there's several claims in here that there's grass growing. There's no grass growing. I can assure you there's no grass growing. There was habitat improvement food plots put in that were done in cooperation with QDMA. There was no lawn seed put here. It is chicory. It is things like clover. We have beans. No lawn. The driveway itself was made, what they call a driveway, was made from 6-inch minus stone. There's no gravel on the driveway. It's 6-inch minus rock. Most people don't classify that as a driveway. As far as the house goes, in one area it's claimed to be one area they claim it to be a cabin, another area they claim it to be a seasonal dwelling, and another area they claim it to be a residency. My house is on this piece of property. I have another house 3 lots down. I don't have this as my residency. I live on this land, or next to the land, I should say. So where they come up with that this is our residency is completely off base when the town already classified it as something else. So either the town made an error in their classification, which is costing us a ton of money because I would not have bought the structure if that was the case, or they're erred in trying to overrule the town's classification of what this is. Now, what's not in dispute is there's a certain area of the cabin that can come out of current use. Not disputing that. That area, though, is not total to the driveway, to the log landing, to the field. It's specific to the outbuilding and what's the land that is on. Now, we've tried to explain this to Avatar before, but I know perception's everything. Perception is we drive by, we see a driveway and a field and a cabin up there. They must have made all this for the house. Absolutely not. And we can bring the building inspector in here too to go through this, that we got the approvals prior to this.
Yeah, I think we're at a point here where your arguments, at least in my opinion, really need to go to the BTLA. Not us. I don't see the Board of Selectmen making a determination on the finer points of how much of a building on the property is secondary residence or cabin. You've mentioned several things, like there's a 6-inch minus gravel driveway, which is clearly changing current use land from what.
In 2006, that was done as part of an improvement, and that was approved by the town, by the way.
I think my recommendation at this point to the Board of Selectmen is that we pay Avatar thousands of dollars to advise us on matters like this. They've given us their opinion. We are not the last stop. The Cinnamons are free to take this to the BTLA for a hearing if they feel there are legitimate problems where this does not meet the letter of the law or they were misled by the town, but I think that's where it needs to go. I'm not comfortable as a selectman setting precedent with this, with my limited knowledge of the exact specifics of what's current use and what's not. I know that we've had situations where far less was on a property that we took out of current use at the advice that I believe stood up at BTLA. So I don't know how the rest of the board feels. We could either make a motion to.
Can I say a couple things?
Certainly.
So, obviously, I think
I don't
you
want
should
to
raise
get
the
in,
building
we
now.
don't want to get into a rebuttal.
Yeah, actually,
For better-
yeah, let's just hold off on this until we make a decision. Appreciate you being here, Evan, but.
Yeah.
So, there's a couple of things we can do. We can make a motion, one way or the other, depending on how the board feels, or we can take no action on this, which is essentially us standing by the decision we've been given and taking no action, and the Cinnamons would proceed to a BTLA hearing if they felt they were being wronged.
I think that's the approach that I would see correct fit.
So is there general agreement among the board that we'll take no action on this? And I'm hearing no motion or no second, so I believe that's the process. And unfortunately, I know this is not convenient or easy for you, but I think that's the best way forward for the Board of Selectmen to proceed in regard to this.
They gave us a lot more information tonight than we'd had in the past, and it just sounds like you should take that to the next level.
Yeah. And again, the only disturbing part about this is that you're relying on information that's not true. So I understand your position,
Right.
and we will move forward with that, I guess.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry it's not the outcome you came here seeking, but I think that's where the board is going to leave it at this point. And I thank you for being here, and I thank Mr. Roberge for showing up to answer our questions, too.
So will you take a vote on that so that I will have that grounds when I move forward?
We are not taking a vote. We're
Okay.
taking no action on the request.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe we've taken care of the warrant articles
Yep.
that were in question. At this point, new business.
Nothing.
Appears to be none. Other business, beyond new or old, or appears to be none. We do not need a non-public session that I'm aware of this evening, so I would move to citizens' comments at this point. And if you have a citizen's comment, please take the microphone so we can get you recorded and give us your name.
My name is Todd Boudreau. I'm the president of the National Wild Turkey Federation for Southern New Hampshire. We cover from Concord onto the Monadnock region out to the seacoast.
What is it again, please?
I'm sorry?
What's the organization?
It's the National Wild Turkey Federation,
Wild Turkey. Okay,
and our chapter is the South Central Strutters.
thank you.
Thank you.
My name is
It has
Alexander.
nothing to do with the whiskey.
Unfortunately, no. My name is Alexander Samji. I am the secretary of the NWTF South Central Strutters.
Why we're here, can you hear me? I have a
Yes.
big mouth. Why we're here this evening is for the previous 2 years before here, we've worked with the state to do a certified ice fishing derby out on Pleasant Lake, and with the town manager. And it is a pure fundraiser that we're doing there. And it's been supported tremendously by the local population around Deerfield. What we're here to do, we've never done anything like this as a chapter. We have a chapter of over 100 members and 10 board members. What we're looking to do with a portion of the proceeds is donate them to either a fuel assistance program or someplace where we're looking for your guidance. I'm just trying to follow the rules and do this correctly, but give a $1,000 donation to the residents of the town of Deerfield in the name of the residents of the town of Deerfield, because they were the ones, quite frankly, who came out and supported us. And we believe in giving back. We're a pure nonprofit.
No, we certainly appreciate that, and the person to be in contact with is Denise Gray, who is in the back of the room, who is, I'm going to say welfare officer, but that's not the correct term. And is keenly aware of the heating assistance, food assistance,
Wonderful.
any of those things that serve the community of Deerfield. And I'm sure she could point you in a very specific direction.
Thank you very much. We just wanted to thank the town of Deerfield. It's not an easy task, as you know, doing any type of fundraising. And we worked to the best of our abilities in conjunction and with guidance, quite frankly, on how to make this as seamless as possible. There are challenges. There are challenges in any event, but we worked through them. The police department was tremendously helpful. There's an officer, Mitchell, I cannot remember his last name.
Mitchell is an avid turkey hunter, by the way.
Oh, he is. You know something? He is a guy. He was a godsend on that day. He was really wonderful on our last year. The National Wild Turkey Federation is about conservation. However, our chapter, we use it as a fundraising platform to give back to the residents of New Hampshire. And but Deerfield has been inherent. We're not going to be doing an ice fishing derby this year, but we wanted to say thank you on our way out the door. So that's how we're going about it.
We very much appreciate that and appreciate you coming to talk with us about it.
We're done. Thank you very
Fred,
much. What, please?
Do you have any statistics on turkeys in the region, and
In terms of, the population is booming.
that's what I figured.
The population is booming, and you actually, your turkeys, they leave a path behind them, right, of the turkey business, and, but they eat turkeys they eat ticks on almost a wholesale level. So you want turkeys. They actually, and they're constantly reinvigorating the environment. They scratch and they roll over all those dead leaves, and a lot of oxygen is oxygenated into the environment, into the soils from turkeys just being turkeys. But the population is on the boom. It was a reintroduction program about 20 years ago. The turkeys in our region are called Easterns. There's 5 different subspecies in the United States. And our model of growth in the Northeast it's actually almost historic. So you'll be seeing, it's funny, in the last 20 years, you see turkeys everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
But it's,
There were a dozen of them in the parking lot where I work this afternoon. I was coming home and I'm like,
yeah, but it's, we love seeing them. I do love seeing them. We believe in, a healthy environment. And this has just been a wonderful platform. What our mission statement is, by the way, for our chapter, is to provide the great outdoors to anyone, regardless of financial means or physical abilities. So if someone wants an experience, and please think of that moving forward. I believe you might still have my contact information, but it's, if there's someone in need, they want to go on a mountain bike or kayak and canoe or something, and they can't do it, that's what we're here for. Utilize us for that. So that's one of the reasons we want to go. It doesn't necessarily have to be the fuel assistance program, but however you folks recommend, it would be best serve the town of Deerfield. This is us saying thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I would note also, as long as we have turkey folks here,
Please.
Our neighbor in the neighboring town of Epsom, Ted Walsky, who was instrumental in New Hampshire Fish and Game as a biologist and bringing turkeys here, retired this year fairly
very nice.
recently.
We worked in conjunction with the biologists of the state of New Hampshire. That's actually how we ended up at Pleasant Lake. And it's a shame to lose someone with so much knowledge and experience to retirement, but they're still around.
He's still around.
Yeah, there's still a voice and still an educational facet that we're listening. Please.
The greatest number that I've seen on walking across my lawn, we were up to 30.
That would have been truly half the state 20 years ago.
Oh, I believe it, yeah.
They replicate, and they're up against it. They have every form. They're ground birds primarily. They don't like to fly. They're too heavy to fly. It's like a basketball trying to fly. And it's, but they have everything picking it up, but they're pretty rugged, pretty stout, and those eyeballs protect them from lead. They have a very large eye-to-brain ratio, and that's what keeps them safe.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Rose, did you have a question or comment?
I was wondering if you all coordinate with UNH on the turkey census?
No, actually, they do on a national level.
Okay.
We don't on a regional level. On the state level, I'm sure they do. We have state representation. In the regional representation, we have local representation. But it's locally, by the way, I don't know whoever you speak with, but the folks that attended the tournament last year, so far, with the funds from last year, we've supported the Manchester Soup Kitchen, the Nashua Soup Kitchen, with food and financial donations. We provided bikes to kids that don't have bikes, and we're also supporting a winter coat program.
Wow.
These are all funds that your residents in a locale has provided. We take zero as profit. It is 100% give back, and the funds we make locally, we're able to invest locally. And we'd rather, not that we'd rather, but we want to show our appreciation for what the residents of Deerfield have done. And please spread that. That's what's happening with the money that they provided at the tournament. Yeah, oh, by the way, we also did stock, with the approval of the state last year, Pleasant Lake with trout.
Oh, wow.
That was, and that wasn't just for our tournament. We did that months in advance of our tournament, just to give back to the resource. And this is trying to give back to the people. I'm sorry I'm being so long-winded, but I can't tell you how much I appreciate what you've done for us over the
Thanks
last
for
couple of
coming
years.
in.
Well, we very much appreciate what you've offered and you being here.
All right, we will follow up. Thank you for hearing us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you, yes.
Other citizens' comments?
I almost tried to steal the pen.
Seeing none.
To adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
We are
job, Andrew.
in adjournment.